Hi everyone, it's me, Darlene. I am here with what I hope is going to be a very quick and fun quilting project. I hesitate to try this because I think it's going to actually be like so simple that maybe it will lack some pizzazz. I don't know. But sometimes simple is best. I just made this up. I was thinking of how I could incorporate some fat quarters into a quilt. And I looked up fat quarter quilts, and most of them you start with fat quarters, but then you cut them into all kinds of pieces and you make blocks. And it's like, well, you don't need a fat quarter to do that. So what I'm going to do is just leave the fat quarters as they are. We're going to trim them so they're all the same size, approximately, and we're just going to go with it. So let's give this a shot. So I have 8 fat quarters. You can choose to have some of your fat quarters matching. I picked 8 different ones. And I'm going to have the top pink and brown, or the back, doesn't matter, but one side will be pink and brown, one of my favorite color combinations, and my other favorite color combination is green and purple, so that's going to be the other side. We're going to start by just putting them together and making them even them out, trim them so that they're all the same size. So let me lay these out. I'll be right back. Here's how I'm doing it. I am stacking them. I'm going to stack all 8 of them together. I'm just, lining up the top. Here's my selvage edge. So I'm going to keep the selvage edge all together. And actually, I'm going to turn it this way because I will have to trim the selvage. And I can have it ready to trim. So selvage edge, and I'm going to line up this edge. And I'm just going to do that with all 8. I don't know why I started with them face up and now I'm working with them face down. It doesn't matter. I am certainly not going to attempt using my rotary cutter through 8 layers. But what I am going to do is I'm going to turn my cutting mat around because I like to use the edge of it as a guide for my scissors. Now it doesn't matter what size block you end up with. It just matters that they're pretty much the same. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut. So I have my 8 fat quarters trimmed. Now I'm going to take my pink and brown, which is one side, and I'm going to put the pinks, like this, kitty corner, and I'm going to put the browns this way. See what I mean? We're just going to be sewing. We're going to be making a big gigantic 4-patch with fat quarters. Now I have very subtle prints here, but if you picked some, really bold, wild and crazy kind of prints with a lot of different colors, it might look very complicated, especially like if you got plaids or stripes, and and then you could even quilt those lines if you wanted, and it would look like a very complicated quilt. But just for the sake of construction, I went with fabric that I had, and this is what we're doing. So I'm going to go to the machine and sew these 2 together right down here, and then I'm going to go ahead and pass these through like that. So I'm just going to chain stitch these. That one and then this one right after. And I have these 2 pieces sewn together and these 2 sewn together. Now I am going to just sew these 2 together to create my 4-patch, and I am going to probably put 1 pin there at the intersection just so it can get close to matching. I'm going to tell you a little trick, and I did it. When you're sewing something long, by the time you get to this intersection, even if you put a pin, the fabric, can shift and want to bunch up. So what you do is you put your intersection together. Start at your intersection. Just start sewing there to one end. Then you stop, you turn around, you go back to your intersection, and you sew in the other direction. Easy as that. I'm going to press this open, and we're done one side of the quilt. I know you can't really see much, but you'll see at the end. But voila, we have one whole side complete. Now I'm going to do the same with the green and purple. I did want to mention, you might say, well, are we putting them up and down or sideways? It doesn't matter. I'm just putting them this way because that's just the way I happen to put them. But you just want to make sure that you do the same for each one of them. So I have the fat quarters, the length going this way on each one of them. But if I would have just turned that whole thing, then they'd be sideways. Doesn't matter. You're just going to be putting all 4 of them together. So I'm going to do the exact same thing, and I'll be right back. I raised the camera a bit so you could probably see a little bit more. I have the bottom done, the top done. I should say my 2 sides are done. This is going to be a fairly big lap quilt because 4 fat quarters equal a yard of fabric. You could certainly have used just 4 fat quarters and use a yard of fabric for the backing. You could have even just taken 2 separate yards of fabric and do this. There's no law saying that you can't do that. You can. Especially if it's a print, you know, a nice big, bold, all over print. It's pretty cool. And again, if you like to do machine quilting, you can quilt around the print, and that looks really nice. But I wanted a fat quarter themed quilt, so that's what we're going with, and I'm doing it on both sides. So now what we will be doing is, I have to decide if I want some batting. I don't usually do batting for the quilting tutorials, just for the sake of expense and time. But I know some of you like to see me do that. So let me think a minute and I'll be right back. Here's what I decided. I am indeed going to put batting because I want to show you once again, I've done it before, but I want to show you again how you can use batting and still do the sew around and turn it method, and it works. My thing is, I don't like quilting a quilt. I don't like sewing up and down and flattening it out. So I'm not going to do that step. I'll show you how to make it with, you can use batting. Of course, cotton batting is the best. I use polyester because for the sake of a tutorial, I just want to show you. I don't care about the batting that I'm using. You can also use flannel or fleece, whatever you want. It's up to you. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how I cut my batting. I'm going to fold this in quarters, half this way, and then half this way. Just going to put it aside. I have a nice big piece of batting here. I want the batting to be bigger because things shift and then I can trim the batting after. So let's say if this is the halfway point here, let's just fold here. So I'm just going to quarter this up also. That'll be a good place to fold it right there. So now I've just got this folded and it's big enough so that when I put this here, you gotta pull that down a little bit more. Make sure there's enough. And I'm just going to cut generously around this. Now we make our sandwich. But we make the sandwich with the batting side down, the batting side on the bottom, then one of your layers of fabric, of fat quarters, and you want it right side up. You want to leave some batting around the edges. I'm just going to work on this side right here for right now. And then the other layer right side down. And I am going to put pins. First I am going to just shake this a little bit and make sure that there's going to be batting all the way around. Yes. And I'm going to pin. And then I'm just going to, you know, turn it and straighten it out. And I'm just going to pin all the way around. You don't have to get down on the floor to do this. You can do it on a table just like I'm doing. And I'll be right back. That was quite easy. I wouldn't say it if it wasn't, because I don't like not easy. Now, I do want to remind everyone that you do need to leave a space because we're going to be turning this. So what I do, so I don't forget, is I have 2 pins together here 2 pins together here. I'm going to start here and go all the way around, and then when I get to the 2 pins, that's a reminder that I need to stop, because 2 pins are weird to me. I would not normally have 2 together, so I have to remember that that's my ending point. And I don't want the opening to be where there's an intersection, so I just moved the opening. Instead of doing it like right here where there's an intersection, I just moved it over to here. So now that's exactly what I'm going to go do. I am going to go here, and I'm going to sew probably a 1/2 inch in, just to make sure, you know, it's all cool. And you should have no problem sewing with your batting on the bottom. I have done it before with even the polyester batting, and it works great. And I'm just going to go sew all the way around, and I'll be right back. Except I'm going to stop here, leaving this open. That was super easy, super quick, but yes, I did scratch my arm 3 times on pins. As careful as I was, I did get injured. I hate pins. Now, I did want to mention, if you end up with just like a nice little amount of batting kind of even all the way around, you don't even have to trim that, because when we turn it and sew around, it's kind of cool if there's an extra batting in the, what we're going to call the border. But I'm going to go ahead and trim. Now you want to find the space that you left open, and you want to put your hands through the 2 fabrics. Like this, not the fabric and the batting, but through the 2 fabrics. And go in and grab your corners, pull them through. Then you can go in and push your corners out. This is really such a cool way to make a quilt with batting, because you don't have to bind it. The only thing is, it's a little bit harder to do with a very large quilt, and it's not the best method if you like to do machine quilting, because this can end up being very puffy, and if you know, try to do like a whole line, it can end up puckering at one end. But it's very good for hand tying, and that's probably how I'm going to finish this one. I absolutely want to do some hand quilting with the long running stitch. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but like the stitches are almost like 1 inch long, and I think it looks so cool. So we will try that at some point. And do remember, your batting is secured because it is sewn in all around the edge. Now what we're going to do is, the edge like this, you just kind of put your fingers in and, you know, tug on it a little bit, and the edges go in, and you're just going to go to the machine and top stitch on that and go all the way around the whole entire quilt. And then I like to go around again. I go in like maybe a 1/2 inch and go around again, and it just looks really nice. So let me go do that. I shall be right back. And this is what the edge looks like when you go around twice. Just very neat. And unless you sew crooked like me, and I do, and that's okay. This is pretty much done for the sake of this video. I will take some pictures so you can see. All I would do at this point is probably tie this in the center and maybe in 2 other spots along the seam, and that's about it. I'm just not going to do that right now. I don't want to have to go look for my embroidery thread and all that stuff. But if it's something that you want to see me do, we can do a whole little project on just that. I would like to do that. But you're free to just quilt this any way you want. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back with more soon. Bye!